Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. I welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back on this beautiful Wednesday evening, about 25 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. Well, when we do come to you live here in camp. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've all had a wonderful day. It's been over a day largely defined by fatigue in my context. It's been that, kind of day. It's been a very, very tiresome in a way, but tiresome in the sense of, having had a sleepless night that was on Tuesday, on Monday night, and everything that came with the hectic of the last 2 days, engagements of running up and down and things like that. So, but anyways, I hope you're all doing good. I hope you've had a wonderful day. So yeah, it's yet another time we get to do this. For those of you that have managed to catch our video with Kasuku, thank you so much. For those of you that have managed to watch it, please go ahead and continue to watch it. Like I told you guys, we've hit already 2,000 subscribers, and now the attention has sort of shifted to pushing for those 4,000 hours of watch time, to help us grow. It's a journey that we are building towards. It's a journey that I hope we get to work together. But yeah, thank you so much for very new subscribers, those that have recently joined the community. It's a pleasure to have you on board. So yeah, please keep subscribing to the channel, keep watching the channel, keep loving it, and yeah, let's grow together. So tonight we'll be speaking about who have been the best summer signings in the Premier League so far. That will be the topic of our discussion, and anything that may come up will be will be secondary to that. But I thought we should. It's been 8 games. Sorry, 7 games in the Premier League played so far. And during that period, I've gotten a chance to see what some of the summer signings have been made of. Many have yet to click. Many have yet to, to have a good day. Hi, Carlos Perez. Hi, how are you doing? Where are you joining us from this beautiful Wednesday evening? Please let us know where you're joining us from. My name is Robert Kesakos, in case you're wondering, but it's good to have you on board on the channel. So do let me know where you're joining us from. And if you're a fan of football, it's a football channel, so we get to discuss matters football, predominantly in the Premier League, but matters beyond. Yesterday we were talking about, not yesterday, but today morning we were talking about teams that are qualified for, the World Cup, particularly from Africa, that have confirmed their qualification and things like that. So yeah, it's been good. So tonight, I want us to have a look at, or to have a deep dive into assessing who have been some of the best Premier League summer signings so far. Do let me know down in the comment section who has impressed you so far. Any standout performance that you observed so far in the Premier League amongst some of those summer signings. I'll be giving you mine. I'll be giving you my reasons as why I think they've been top performers. Perhaps we'll have a segment where we get to mention those that have yet to hit the expectations, given the sort of price tags that they may have come at, given the hype that they may have come in at, because hype is also part of it, and yet they are yet to sort of impress. For some, it's due to lack of game time. Others are trying to acclimatize to the Premier League. For others, it's it's been a bit of just a slow start. In some cases, for some, it's been a bit of a baptism of fire. Others have been very, very unfortunate with injuries. So we will talk about all that in that sense. But yeah, that will be the gist of our conversations, of our conversation tonight. And without wasting any further ado, let's get things underway. Where do I start? Among the top performers, I'm not going to rank them in terms of who has been the best so far, but I think we will go through some of them. For some, we did mention just, I think last week when we were looking at the best holding midfielders. And so far, I would say Nick Voltmada is one of those, coming from Stuttgart, coming to Newcastle. It's a new league. We know he's a good player. He's a top striker. We know that Bayern Munich were interested in his services. They did beat in the region of 65 million euros to try and sign him, but Stuttgart wanted more, which Bayern Munich could not commit to, and he ended up at Newcastle. Newcastle paid quite the sum for him. I think a fee in the excess of 80 million euros to land his services. And I would say he's not disappointed. He so far scored at least 3 goals in the Premier League. He did score in their 1-0 victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers. He scored over the weekend. That was the previous weekend before, or the very last weekend, match the 7th before the international break. He did score in their 2-0 victory against Nottingham Forest. He scored a penalty in that game. Then the other goal came against Arsenal, a brilliant header. So far in the Premier League, he's sort of delivered. He's delivered. Yes, Newcastle are yet to climb, to crawl their way into the top 10 because as we speak, they are 11th of the Premier League table with just about 9 points after 3 draws and 2 victories, as well as a loss. That puts them in that sort of bracket or that place of results. So I think, particularly in the few games I've watched him, he's looked good. His runs are good. Of course, I think like Alexander Isak, it's going to take him a bit of time. Apologies about that slight internet glitch. About that slight internet glitch. I do not know what really caused it, but unfortunately, those things do happen sometimes. So I was still speaking about Nick Voltmada, and I was saying that it may take him a bit of time to sort of fit perfectly in that Newcastle machine, to find the perfect chemistry with the wingers that play around him, whether it's Anthony Gordon and Anthony Elanga, whether it's Harvey Barnes, whether it's going to be William Osula, who often plays as a striker. He's a striker. So finding partnerships with Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Joelinton, Joe Willock, whichever sort of forward midfield and forward players are put to play around him, I think. But 3 goals is not a really a bad start in the Premier League. In any case, it's no less than what Victor Gyökeres has, and we know that Victor Gyökeres is surrounded by much better players on the side of Arsenal, or in that sort of respect. So yeah. Then the other player that I think has been really good so far, maybe not the most outstanding player, but I think he's done really well in his start to that to his career with Chelsea, and that's Joao Pedro. I mean, we started seeing glimpses of him, of course, during the course of the summer at the FIFA Club World Cup. When they played there, when Chelsea played there and won the competition. So he's had an impactful, start to his Chelsea career. He's already provided, I think, about 3 assists. I stand to be corrected on that. Yes, 3 assists he's provided, and I know he scored a couple of goals, maybe 2. I think about 2 goals, So it's been one of those impactful signings in as far as this season is concerned. So take nothing away from him. I think Joao Pedro has been one of the good ones, and I think he will go on to be even much, much better. Of course, in the absence of Cole Palmer, sometimes you get the feeling that Chelsea's a bit of creativity and sharpness in front of goal is sort of maybe 25% taken away every time they play without Cole Palmer in that sense, because there is a way he makes a winger stick, his quick release of the ball, his individual carrying of the ball. He has a fine pass for an assist and, and things like that. And he himself has that eye for goal. So they certainly do miss him every time he's absent, whether it is through injury, whether it's being rested. But unfortunately, this time around, it's through injury. So yeah, Joao Pedro is that other person. Then the other standout performer is been Muhammad Kudus at Tottenham Hotspurs. I think Muhammad Kudus has equally been quite sensational. 4 assists in his start to the Tottenham Hotspur career in 7 games. I think that's a very good return on investment. So the winger hit the ground running with Spurs, and he's leading the charts in terms of assists in the Premier League with 4 assists. So which makes him a very valuable addition to that Thomas Frank side in as far as this season is concerned. So I think he would go down as one of my key sort of performers in as far as this season is concerned. So really impressive player that they do have on their hands in Tottenham Hotspurs. Of course, sometimes you will question maybe that couldn't he have done more? Sometimes with his final ball, sometimes he overruns the ball. But yeah, I think with time, we will see Thomas Frank sort of develop him to be into a much better player. The same way he managed to coach Brandon Bomo to become Brentford's top scorer last season with 20 Premier League goals. The same way he coached Ivan Toney, Yohan Wissa to become some of the best Premier League players that we did have in the Premier League prior to their respective departures from Brentford. So I think he will even get better as he improves on his, decision making and things like that. Then the other player that I wish to mention is also another Tottenham Hotspur player. That's Joao Pedro. He's new to the Premier League in the sense of he did return this season on loan to Tottenham Hotspur, having been absent, I think, for about a year when he left Fulham to join Bayern Munich. And he's been a standout performer. 2 goals to his name already against Manchester City and a late equalizer in their 1-1 draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And speaking of impact, I do not think it gets any better than that when you're talking about in terms of impact. So he's been, I think, self-imposing in that Tottenham Hotspur midfield, especially coming in to fill, I don't want to say a void, but to sort of upgrade on the performances of what's his name? Yohan Wissa. Sorry, not Yohan Wissa, Yves Bissouma, that he was giving that Tottenham Hotspur side. So I think he's done really well to fit into that Tottenham Hotspur, whether it's playing alongside Lucas Bagville or Rodrigo Bentancur with Pape Mata right in that mix. I think he's done really a commendable job. So yeah, he's been one of the best summer signings in the Premier League so far this season. Then the other player for me has been Granit Xhaka. I mean, we knew what to expect of him when he joined Sunderland. For me, it was a bit of a surprise in terms of him choosing to join Sunderland, overstaying at Bayer Leverkusen, because we know that Bayer Leverkusen are playing in the UEFA Champions League. Yes, they had their internal changes, during which they lost a whole host of players, the likes of Jonathan Tah, of course, Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, among many others that did leave the club in the wake of Xabi Alonso's departure. But that all notwithstanding, plus Pierre Hincap eventually, I was surprised that he sort of left a club the size or the caliber of Bayer Leverkusen, just a year after they have been a champion, champions of the German Bundesliga. We know that they won the league title in the 2023-2024 campaign. So after one extra season, he decided to leave. And guess where he was going to? Sunderland, where he's contributed 3 assists already. Now, that in itself as a contribution is quite tremendous. But like we said at the time of the signing, that it does bring leadership qualities to that dressing room, and indeed he does bring them. He was straight away handed the captain's armband. He's the captain of the Switzerland national team. So I do not think it would have split any opinions whatsoever within the Sunderland dressing room when the manager Regis gave him that role. So I think he's been tremendous. He's been a huge he's been of tremendous influence to what they've been able to do. They do have already a tally of 11 points, and they sit in the 9th place on the Premier League log. So you look at that and think to yourself, if they continue with that kind of trajectory, then they will have no qualms whatsoever to survive relegation, but also perform beyond expectations. So yeah, he's one of the standout performers so far for me this season, in as far as new summer signings are concerned. And then the other player who is equally not new to the Premier League, but is a summer signing, because for Granit Xhaka, he spent about 5 years at Arsenal before going to Bayer Leverkusen. So he's already well versed with the Premier League and its requirements, whether it's the tempo, the temperament, the physicality, and everything that you come to mention. He's already well acclimatized to that. And now, in a similar fashion, I want to add George Petrovic. That's the goalkeeper who joined Bournemouth from Chelsea. We know that as a Chelsea player, he did feature for Chelsea. I think, particularly during that season of Mauricio Pochettino being in charge of Chelsea. That was last season but one. So, and then he spent last season itself away on loan to Strasbourg, where he did well. So he does come and he's been very, very impactful. 3 clean sheets. It's not easy task to walk into the shoes or into the gloves of Kepa Arrizabalaga, who had been at Bournemouth last season as an on-loan player from Chelsea. So I think he's done tremendously well so far this season, as far as summer signings are concerned. Now, in these summer signings, I will also include some on-loan players because while you're just on loan, it does not negate the fact that you are a signing or a summer signing. And on that note, therefore, I wish to mention Jack Grealish. I mean, he's been brilliant. He's been brilliant. On loan to Everton, Grealish has been one of the league's top creators, topping the open play chances created with 16 already. He has registered 4 assists. He's joined top with Muhammad Kudus. And I mean, the indicators are really, really strong that he's returning to that level where he is an influential player in the team and not just a peripheral and not just and not just a complementary player, the way he was at Manchester City. So he's sort of self-rediscovered into the Jack Grealish we saw at Aston Villa. Just is yet to hit those heights and those numbers that he did record at Aston Villa before earning himself a £100 million move to Manchester City. I think that was 2022, around that season or thereabout, So he's been just simply sublime. In fact, in their last victory, that's for their last victory for Everton, he did score the winning goal against that was against Crystal Palace, as they put an end to Crystal Palace's unbeaten run so far this season, the Premier League, but also bringing their 19-game unbeaten run across all competitions dating far back to last season to an end. So I think he's been really tremendously doing well. So for me, I would add him among the top signings of the summer this season so far. Then the other player I want to add is Amin Adil at AFC Bournemouth. The forward has been, the player has been a bit of a defensive workhorse. You know, yes, he does play in that sort of attacking bit of third. That is Amin Adil. You know, he's been I think he's been outstanding so far at this season. If you were to ask me, among because we are talking about a Bournemouth side who lost so many players during the course of the summer, and particularly in their backline, you had feared for Bournemouth, and yet they've they've turned out to be better than we had sort of feared. Or apologies. He has turned out to be much better than what we had anticipated. Yes, the goals and assists are yet to come, but he's been very decent. Then the other player I want to add is Arsenal's. I think with Arsenal, I'd pick out three players. In as far as Premier League, impactful Premier League summer signings go, I'd go first of all Martin Zubimendi. What a player he's been. Fitting well into that Arsenal machine like a glove, you know, like gloves fitting on fingers. He's had a very tremendous impact in that team. You look at their 2-0 victory against West Ham United, and literally he had a hand in both goals. You go back to the game against Nottingham Forest, he scored a brace. You go back to the same game in which the first goal he scored was just recently voted Premier League goal of the month for September. You go and look at his other performances. Away to Newcastle, you look at against United. Now against United, yeah, you could take the bitter pill of a 50-50 kind of performance, given that it was his debut game and away to Old Trafford. But I think he's done really well, and he's been very impressive. Martin Zubimendi. Then the other player that you look to, because before we leave Martin Zubimendi, there were so much concerns amongst the Arsenal fan base who were really scared in the wake of them losing Jorginho, and in the same breath losing Thomas Partey, whose contract ran out, and the club, while they tried their best, eventually couldn't renew his contract. But he ended up leaving, so there were concerns from the Arsenal fan base that who is that kind of midfielder they were going to get to hit the ground running. And they signed Martin Zubimendi. And because the club sort of a team or management, you could see with Andre Bata, Mikel Arteta, and his entire coaching team, I think they were well aware that maybe they needed to have a backup plan or a plan B. While in itself they needed replacements for Jorginho, with Zubimendi having replaced Partey, you sort of, I think within them, they also thought, they must have thought about it or thought to themselves, what if it doesn't work out? Or what if it takes him time, to fit into not just this team, but also in the entire league as a whole. Now, the argument is simple that they already had Declan Rice, but like I've explained before, Declan Rice is preferred to be played in a more advanced role. That's playing as an 8, as compared to him sitting back as a number 6. Yes, he's played still this season, but what they wanted to do was different. Now, to give themselves a bit of safety, they went to Brentford and signed Christian Nørgaard. Now, unfortunately for them, Christian Nørgaard has literally been absent throughout this season. I think he's only featured in one game for Arsenal, and he's been out injured, and yet they've not missed him. That's the biggest compliment. I can give Zubimendi. They signed Christian Nogard as a Premier League proven player who can play in the same role or in the same position, but they've not had to rely on him because Martin Zubimendi has carried himself really, really well. So I think he goes down as one of the standout performers amongst the Premier League summer signings so far this season. Now, the other player I want to mention is Christian Mosquera. Now, the reason, even though he's not played as many minutes as we would love to see him, and for the right reasons, but it's because the players that started ahead of him are better, and he equally knows that. He was recently speaking while in Spain, and he did say he came to Arsenal knowing that he wasn't going to be a starter, that he wasn't going to get ahead of William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes, but that's what the club wanted, to have somebody that can push these two to fight for their place, to push them to be better defenders and better players. And I think Christian Mosquera has done just that. Recently, William Saliba spoke his praise of him when he was being asked about, the Premier League, some of their signings. And I remember he was being asked to use one word for whichever name they mentioned. When they mentioned Ebeleche Eze, he said technique. When they mentioned Noni Madueke, he said electric. When they mentioned Christian Mosquera, I do not remember the exact word he used, but he spoke about his strength and how very, very solid he is. And for a 21-year-old, they've been literally surprised by how well he's played. We remember when he got withdrawn very early on in the game against, I think, Liverpool, how Christian Mosquera walks onto that pitch and he delivers a very, very good performance. So I do not think there's a single game Arsenal have gone into worried that we do not have a backup defender. Also, coming into a new league, physically, he's been well matched. He has the pace, he has the composure, he's not look panicky. It's more like he's played in the Premier League before, and yet that's not the case. So I thought that Christian Mosquera had deserved a mention among these, brilliant summer signings so far. Then the other player that I wish to mention or tackle on is Noni Madueke. Now, Noni Madueke is the kind of, and the reason as to why I bring him out among this Arsenal cohort of players that we're discussing at the moment is there's a lot of backlash, and I do not want to say amongst majority of Arsenal fans, but among a reasonable number of Arsenal fans, including those who went on to sign a petition, an online petition of how they shouldn't be signing Noni Madueke. Of course, it was never their decision to make, and I do not think, given the sort of homework the club had done on Noni Madueke, any voice of the fans would have done to anything to sway, their stance or their team that they were trying to build. And he comes in, and very early into the season, Bukayo Saka suffers an injury, and Arsenal never missed Bukayo Saka. Why? Because they had Noni Madueke. He looked sharp, he looked electric. Yes, he's yet to provide the assist and score the goals, but you go back to that game against Nottingham Forest, and he's a standout performer. How many times have we seen him be one of the standout performers? You go in that game away to Liverpool at Anfield in the first half, he was a standout performer. So he's been brilliant. Unfortunately for him, he suffered a knee injury that sort of hampered his, sort of progression with that Arsenal side. And you look at it, and because for me, I remember I defended the club's decision to sign Noni Madueke, because for so long, Arsenal fans or football fans, commentators, analysts, whatever you may call them, did shout out for Arsenal to sign a backup player, a backup for Bukayo Saka, and they really, really needed that player. Who was that player going to be? Nobody knew. We had our own ideas in terms of who we suggested, who we thought would be ideal, but the club thought otherwise. They went for Noni Madueke. 23 years of age, signed quite expensively, £52 million from Chelsea. A bit of a controversial one because it was another player joining in from Chelsea, having already signed Kepa Baraga from Chelsea, and things like that. So, but I think if you take a poll to those very same players that signed that petition, I do not know what the odds would be, but I think it's safe to say that more than 70% would say keep Noni Madueke, do not take him back to Chelsea. And I'm particularly talking about those that signed that petition to say do not bring Noni Madueke at Arsenal. So those are, I thought he's been a standout performer. Then the other player that has been a standout performer for me is Hugo Ekitike. Again, coming into a new league, young striker, only 23 years of age. You've been playing in the German Bundesliga for what, a season and a half or slightly over that. I mean, and then you're joining a team like Liverpool, they are the Premier League reigning champions, and high laden with expectations. It's not easy. You're playing with Mohamed Salah, whereas it can be a huge positive. It can be equally intimidating for a forward player. And then the club goes ahead to sign Alexander Isak, and you're supposed to compete for the same slot, and yet you still bang it in. I think he's done really, really well in so far in a Liverpool. In a Liverpool jersey. He scored 3 goals in the Premier League already against Bournemouth. He did score against Newcastle in their 3-2 victory. Then the other goal came in what game? Against Everton, So, and then he also scored for them, of course, in the Carabao Cup against Southampton. He had also scored for them against Crystal Palace in the Community Shield. I mean, he's been just decent. He's been brilliant. He's been brilliant, He's been really, really brilliant. Take away that stupid red card that he concedes against Southampton in the EFL Cup, and there's not much you'll fault Hugo Ekitike for. So for me, he does stand out as one of the brilliant or best signings of the summer in the Premier League. So, I mean, yeah, so those are some of the names. Now, in terms of names that could have done better or who I think will go on to have very, very decent seasons, and as far as their debut campaigns in the Premier League go with new clubs or summer signings go, one, I think Gianluigi Donnarumma at Manchester City is going to be one of those very, very decent goalkeeper. I think he's already kept what? 2 clean sheets. One coming against Brentford. So then I look at Fran Vitz. He's yet to click in that Liverpool side, but I sort of remain positive that when things click in place, he will be one of the best performers. Alexander Isak, same situation at Liverpool. I think when Liverpool hit the emoji, it's going to be one of those standout players. Arsenal's Victor Gyökeres already has 3 goals, a burst against Leeds United, and the other coming against which opponent he scored against? Nottingham Forest, So I think, yeah, he's struggled in some games. For example, in the game against West Ham, had a very, very average performance. In the game against Liverpool, in the game against Manchester United, had average performances, but he did well against Newcastle. And then in the subsequent game in the UEFA Champions League against Olympiacos, I thought he really, really did well. But of course, Arsenal would have hoped to ease him into life into the Premier League. But as soon as he walks in, match day 1 ends, Kai Havertz has that knee injury and he's been out ever since then. Gabriel Jesus out injured. So that only leaves Mikel Merino as a makeshift striker. Maybe you could play Gabriel Martinelli or Leandro Trossard there, but it's all to say that Mikel Arteta has given him lots of minutes because of the options that are available to him that he would have rather used. So he would rather use Leandro Trossard and Martinelli on the wings, whether left or right, than giving them a chance at centre forward. So that's why in some games you've seen Victor Gyökeres not being withdrawn or substituted. So, but we will see. With Mikel Merino banging the goals for fun, having a tally of 6 goals in the FIFA World Cup qualifiers for UEFA, I mean, that's really, really brilliant. So do not be surprised. And I do not think it will be the case, but do not be surprised if he's given a nod over the weekend to play against Fulham. However, I get the feeling that given that Manchester City game where he had Declan Rice, Mikel Merino, and Martin Zubimendi, I do not know if he will be inclined to play that sort of midfield because he had to change it in the first after the first half and bring in Eberechi Eze. So those are some of the other players to watch. Eze at Arsenal, he's not been bad, but he's not been outstanding. You know, there's no game he's come out of and say, yeah, that was a man of the match kind of performance. Against Newcastle, he had a brilliant game. Against West Ham, he had his moments, straight up squad, but didn't. But yeah, he will be another one to watch. So, guys, do let me know who your standout performance in as far as the summer signings in the Premier League so far have been. Those are mine. Those are my thoughts. If you have a divergent opinion, do let me know who yours would be. Who are the prospects you look at that you think will come good? I think William Esteval at Chelsea would be good. Jamie Gittens, I'm not yet sold. I want to give him more time to see what he's really, really capable of, whether he will deliver, you know. But yeah, those are equally exciting players that we think should come on to have the kind of impact that their teams hope for them. We know that William Esteval scored that winning goal for Liverpool against in their 2-1 victory against Chelsea. So then the other players that are yet to live to the hype of the expectations or to fit the bill of what it costs to sign them is Bryan Mbeumo at Manchester United. I think he scored a goal and provided one so far this season in the Premier League. Matheus Cunha has been quiet. I think if Man United if whatever Manchester United are cooking, planning to do, or whatever they will be good for, those two will have to be right up there with the very best of players, not just in the Premier, not just in Manchester United, but also in the Premier League as a whole. So Bryan Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha should be some of those players we'll keep our eyes on, as well as Benjamin Sesko. He's scored 2 goals already against Brentford. And over the weekend, the other weekend, the final match, the 7, that was against Sunderland. So yeah, another cohort of prospects that should be coming good soon or later, really, in as far as some of those teams are concerned. Then I'm trying to think. Randall Colomwani, we are yet to see what he's made of or what he's capable of. We are yet to see how he will be, whether he will be an outstanding performer for Tottenham Hotspurs. We do not know, you know. So we'll wait to see. Then who else? Anthony Elanga at Newcastle. I'm sort of hopeful. The numbers are so far not yet on his side in terms of goals and assists, but I think he will be one to watch as well. You know, Yeremy Pino at Crystal Palace. Yeah, another player, one to watch, really, among the summer signings in the Premier League. So yeah, those are some of the names that I think we should keep our tabs on. Of course, there could be others or many others, but given that, like I said, for some it's been a slow start. I've given you the example of Christian Nogard. He's been out through injury. You look at Pierre Hincap's and Story. These are all summer signings. Kepa Arrizabalaga has not been accorded the minutes as a goalkeeper. Not that it's surprising. Yes, Georgie Madashvili, the goalkeeper that joined Liverpool, especially in this window where, you know, Alson Ramsey-Specker is out through injury. He will really need to prove himself that he was a worthy replacement for Comain Gallagher, but also a long-term, replacement for Alson Ramsey-Specker. So he will need to prove himself. So yeah, those are some of the names that I can highlight that I can talk about. Do let me know if you have, other names that you wish to add. Those that I may not have tackled on or highlighted upon. Yeah, there's quite many, and I did not make a list, so I've had to take majority of them off my fingers. So in case there's any that I've forgotten, kindly put them down in the comment section. And I wish to say thank you to all those that watch our live broadcasts long after they've ended. We would not take your love and support for granted, your time for granted. So it's always we're always really grateful. Thank you so much, Carlos Pierce. Thank you so much to all our usual suspects, those who comment, those who do not comment, those who like the broadcast, those who just watch, those who post the questions, those who help expand on our debates and discussions. Thank you so much for the love and support. Stay blessed, and I'll see you guys next time. Have yourselves a great night. Bye-bye for now.